beautiful people. This is exciting because this is the first ever episode of Vaguely Related. This is a new series that I decided to do after just honestly being inspired by so many other YouTube creators who were able to make me feel like I was actually learning something while I was watching. They were able to make me feel stimulated instead of just numbing my brain like a lot of other content does. So we got a good video essay in store for you today, as you can see on the title. Why successful people quit. Now, that's not true for everyone. Let's just get that out of the way. That's not going to be the case for every single person. This is just something that I noticed as a trend, and I think we'll get into it, but I think the bigger trend, instead of quitting, the bigger trend is that these people were willing to take a chance on themselves. Hear that? We'll get into it. Also, I'm in Grenoble right now. This is literally the view from my Airbnb. These little things going up the mountain. I'll show you some more clips that I got. Please excuse how generally nasty I look because I just randomly got allergic to everything since I've come over across the pond to Europe. So I can't wear any makeup, and I'm only eating bread and oatmeal and the whole thing. But I'm editing this video in bed right now, and I noticed there's not a lot of context if you don't know me. Basically, what I've been doing for the last month and will continue to do for the next 2 months is I'm traveling the world and working solely on writing my novel. It sounds crazy, but I have more details in my last video if you want to watch that. Okay, let me pull my notes up quick because I have a lot to cover and I want to make sure I get through it all. Don't be thrown off. We'll make it digestible, it'll be easy. This is not a lecture. This is a fun way to stay stimulated and to keep learning. So what really started me thinking about this is I always remember being so almost obsessed with the fact that so many successful people that I knew of had seemingly quit their jobs or dropped out of college or dropped out of high school. And it seemed like that, that's all it takes. All you have to do is drop out and then you'll just be successful. Everybody knows the stories of Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, even Emma Chamberlain dropped out of high school. And that's one that I thought about a lot. Not dropping out of high school, but Emma Chamberlain doing that and then becoming an overnight success. I was looking into this further and I was wondering if there were other people who had maybe dropped out, or if it truly was just dropping out is what allowed them to be successful. Is it because they gave themselves more time, they were able to make this happen, or did they have the idea before? What is it? To most people, dropping out is unfathomable. It's a crazy idea. People look at you, they say you're stupid, they say how could you, they say you're gonna ruin your life. These people heard those things, they must have, and they dropped out anyway. Now that takes a crazy amount of self-confidence. Some kinds of self-confidence can be over the top and can be dangerous, but mostly when you believe in yourself, you are gonna make it happen, because that's the only person who's ever gonna make it happen is you. So is it that these people dropping out just had so much self-confidence and so much trust in their own abilities that they were able to actually make it happen? That's kind of what I was thinking. And that's the one thing they all had in common, because they all believed with such certainty in themselves and in nobody else. Because when you drop out, you're saying, I don't need a diploma, I don't need this job, all I have is me, and I'm gonna make it happen. It's almost like you have to be filled with such confidence and such determination that's so unshakable that people will almost confuse it for delusion. And you know what? We have to be fine with being thought of as crazy or delusional, because only I know my success and my talents and what I'm able to do. Nobody knows what's going on in this head, okay? I'm telling you, nobody. And I was just a lot of people think that they have all these people who are helping them, they have this whole team, they have their advisors or their teachers, and those are really valuable resources. But honestly, we have to start thinking of ourselves as the only player. Everyone else is a fan. They will cheer you on, but they will not get the goal for you. the only person, sports analogies, what am I doing? But come on, we get it, right? We're the only person, I am the only person who is gonna make it happen. Everyone else that I have in my life that's supporting me, that's amazing that they will cheer me on, but they will not get me past the finish line. I'm sorry, I could go all day with sports analogies. We're gonna wrap it up. But I think the problem with this is there is a fine line with this delusion, because a lot of people think, oh yeah, like I believe in myself, like I practice self-care all the time. And that is really important. You do need to be in touch with yourself. You need to understand. Some people, you just need to get grounded, however you need to do it. But self-care as a concept, I think, is a little bit dangerous, because self-care can be an excuse sometimes. You can say, oh yeah, I believe in myself, I love myself, so I'm gonna focus completely on myself. But then you'll turn around that focus and make it, I'm gonna stay at home, I'm gonna rest, I'm gonna put on a face mask, I'm gonna watch as much TV as I want to because I am focusing on myself. That's not focusing on your future, that's more focusing on your now, which is fine. If you need to have a day to yourself like that, everyone needs to rest. Not everyone has to be going all the time thinking about the future. But if you think that's gonna get you anywhere, it's not. That's focusing on the here and now. And honestly, the way that I think of self-care is self-care is kind of babying yourself if you really think about it. Like, you think of true love, loving yourself, that's unconditional self-love. Unconditional self-love is not babying yourself. It's kicking yourself out of the nest. Knowing that you need it, even if it's gonna be a little uncomfortable right now, that's unconditional self-love. So you need to be delusional, you need to be believing in yourself, and you have to be willing to take that jump to kick yourself out of the nest and make yourself do it. Just do it. It seriously is that easy sometimes. And that is why I think, going back to why these successful people seem to have dropped out or quit their jobs, it's because they just pressed the button and they did it. They had nowhere else to go. Once you jump, all you can do is make yourself fly, otherwise you hit the ground. So what's up with my analogies today? Okay, I swear I have some like actual research that I'm gonna get to and I'll have some sources, but I'm just on a roll right now, can't help it. But here we go. I saw this YouTube video the other day from this guy who has a channel called Untrenditional Gospel. And he had this concept that I thought was so interesting that relates a lot to that concept of self-love and kind of letting yourself, marinate in the leisure and feel just comfortable. He brought up this chart that I'll put up here now. And I would definitely go to his channel and check out his video because he explains it way better than I do. But he basically, through different Bible verses and just different things that he learned through his life, proved how a person's purpose in the world is to create more than they consume. I feel like that's something I've always heard, but the way he described it with this chart was that if you're not creating, if you're only consuming, you're gonna get yourself so deep in this cycle of consumption and then disappointment and then regret, and then it will just keep going and going, and you're not gonna get yourself anywhere. On the other hand, if you get into a cycle of creation and you create, and creating can mean so many different things. I know that it sounds scary to some people who maybe don't feel like they're creative or like they don't have a passion project or something, but creating can be asking more questions than answering them. It can be that simple. And once you get into that cycle, you'll motivate yourself to do even more, because it's just, I don't know, when you create, you just start to feel like that thrumming inside of you that something is right and that you're here and that's your reason is being fulfilled, whatever that may be. But I don't know, that's how I feel when I'm writing, and that's why I know that I need to continue writing and to continue creating, whether it's these little videos that I'm starting to do or little essays, a little book that I wrote that I might be potentially sending to agents soon. Yeah, I thought that chart was super interesting, and one of the quotes that he said too was, if you're creating with yourself in mind, then you're still creating with the heart of consumption. So whatever you make, whatever you decide that you want to bring into the world, whatever you think you're passionate about, whatever you think you're good at, anything that you do that's not just sitting around, make sure you do it from a true place. Basically, don't do it for money. Anything that you do for the sole purpose of money, it's not gonna work out. your purpose being money there's so many things wrong with that, and that could go on a whole different thing, but you're basically making money your God, and you're trying to serve an idol that's literally paper. So the thing about creating things is that you can't just wait for an idea to come to you. You can't just wait for anything to come to you. You have to do it yourself. And that is why I think being uncomfortable is so important in this whole cycle of pushing yourself to jump. It's making yourself uncomfortable because you don't know what's gonna happen next. Cue my favorite Fiona Apple song.
I still only travel by foot, and by foot it's a slow climb. But I'm good at being uncomfortable, so I can't stop changing all the time. I notice that my opponent is always on the go and won't go slow, so's not to focus. And I notice he'll hitch a ride with any guide as long as they go fast from whence he came. But he's no good at being uncomfortable, so we can't stop staying exactly the same.
If you don't know Fiona Apple, or if you don't know the song Extraordinary Machine, when I first heard the lyrics to this, walking on the treadmill, blasting in my ears, I was like nodding along, yep, to every single, like she's a genius of lyrics, everybody. Yes, she also just released a new song like yesterday, which is crazy because she never does. And that was very inspiring too. And that's kind of the beauty in it. That's where you figure out maybe where your purpose lies or what you're good at. Because if you let yourself get too comfortable, then you'll lose sight of what it feels like to create, and you'll just get in that cycle of shame. And then you'll feel even more scared about trying something new. And I know a lot of people who are in that cycle right now, who are afraid to try something new, even though they're always complaining about their lives. I feel like all of us know someone like that who's always complaining about their job. Yet when you try and gently ask them, oh, like I had this opportunity, any chance you want to try something new, they will completely decline it. They will never, it seems like they will never quit this situation or this job that they're in, and yet it's the main thing that is ruining their life. And it's always been so hard for me to think of like why, but it is just fear. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is that your comfort is actually causing you a lot more pain than what your fear of what trying something new might ever feel like. I was watching this YouTube video recently about a similar topic by this woman called Karina Alexandria, and she said, we would rather choose to suffer when we can predict the outcome. We think pain feels good when it feels familiar. And I think that is so important because so many people get stuck by this feeling of familiarity, thinking that familiar equals good or equals easy or something that's not painful. And how would they ever know that being uncomfortable could be one of the most amazing things that they ever felt? Because they'll never jump, they'll never get outside of that comfort zone. And the Untraditional Gospel guy, he also had a really interesting Bible quote that he pulled out. That was from Romans 12:2. That was, not to be conformed to the pattern of this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So the world can bring you in to this kind of consistency, this monotony that you maybe don't even realize. And then there was this amazing Substack article that I came across called Why the Comfortable Life is Killing You. Let me just read a passage from this because it makes so much sense. And I was in a place like this before where I thought that I was stuck. And I know so many people who feel like they're stuck. And I just think that this could really, really help some people. We exist in an age of abundance, yet many of us rot from within. Never before has the civilized world been so well-fed, so sheltered, so free from the primal struggles that once defined existence, and never before has it been so consumed by misery, anger, and the biting angst of meaninglessness. Absorbed in comfort, we are restless. Drowning in excess, we are hollow. The statistics confirm what our souls already know. Despair has metastasized. Anxiety has become our natural state. And in the absence of real suffering, we have made a spectacle of our own discomfort. Progress has delivered everything except the will to endure it. Just gonna let that sink in for a little bit. I kind of need it to sink in too. In the same Substack, the writer Erik Rittenberry makes this connection to our restlessness to depression, which I think is such an interesting point and so relevant. And some of the data that he brought up is that in the United States alone, depression rates have been steadily rising for decades, and more than 40 million Americans are riddled with anxiety disorders. Now, this could be because of diagnosing. He doesn't say this in there, but this is something that we all know. Mental illnesses haven't been taken seriously for a very, very long time. This is something that us as a society are just starting to really look closely at, and we're really just starting to understand it. So it could be that most people were not diagnosed. But in the same vein, people who are diagnosed are going to the doctor first. You can't be diagnosed without a doctor telling you. So there is still that hollowness within us that so many of us feel, even if we don't have any kind of diagnosed condition. It's just this restlessness because we have everything at our fingertips. Everything is so readily available, and yet as much abundance as we have, we feel like we have nothing. And that is the absence of a purpose in a life where you don't create and you only consume. Capitalism, baby. That's what that is. Late stage capitalism. The thing that I keep coming back to is a friend a while ago recommended this book to me called The Defining Decade. It's about your 20s and if you feel lost and just like different tips on what you're supposed to do. That book did kind of put me into a spiral when I read it, so just be careful. I'm not recommending the book necessarily, even though I feel like there were some good lessons in it. But specifically, what I want to mention is there was this really vivid metaphor in the book that, who is the author? That Meg Jay wrote about. And it basically was that so many young people in their 20s have that feeling of being stuck because they've been told what to do their entire lives. Like, think about it. When you're a kid, you're learning how to be a person. Like, your parents are teaching you how to talk, how to walk, how to be a person alive in the world. And then when you go through school, you're learning how to kind of understand how to think in the world, how to have your place in the world where history is a part of it, where a future is a part of it. And then in college, you're also learning, and your whole point is to create this future for yourself based on this knowledge that you're going to obtain that's going to drive you through the rest of your life. And then when you graduate college, that is the rest of your life, apparently. And if you don't go to college, same thing after high school. You learn and then you feel like you're dropped off, and then what? And Meg Jay's metaphor that she has is that it really is like you're dropped off in the middle of the ocean. And the really interesting part about this metaphor for me is that, think of this, you're in the middle of the ocean and there's hundreds, even thousands of islands surrounding you on every side, everywhere you look. And you can swim, you can tread water really good, and you can swim really good. And you know this. And you see all of these islands out here, any opportunity. If you just swim to one, then that'll be your future. Then you can pick that and you'll do that. You swim to this, you're a lawyer. You swim to this side, you're a doctor. You swim to this side, you get to work at a restaurant. You swim to this side, you write a book. But people just wade. They just stay in place because there's so many options. And maybe they accidentally end up drifting to an island, and then because they're there, they stay there and they don't go anywhere else. And there's so many other islands that they could pick, but they don't, because they're too scared to either get back in the water or to just start swimming. If you know, Sylvia Plath is very similar to the fig tree metaphor, which I think is so good too. It's about someone looking up at the fig tree above them and they're so hungry, but they just can't pick a fig because there's so many of them and they all look so good. This is our problem of overabundance. We have so many choices. We can literally do anything, that because we have so many choices, it scares us so bad that we just go deeper into our shell and let the world do what it can to us, and then we don't decide anything. Yeah. You know, I was just in, okay, this is gonna be a tangent, I'm sorry, but I was just in Alicante a few days ago in the south of Spain, and they had the biggest ficus tree, which is also a fig tree, that I've ever seen in my life. I thought a ficus plant was like those house plants that you get. I probably have a sticker of it. Like the little tiny, no, this was a full-blown tree that I could not even put my arms out and tell you the size of the trunk of this. I will put it up right now, but that's how I feel like my fig tree is. That's how many figs I have, because I want to do everything. I just have so much excitement about so many different things in life. And, you know, I think this is my reasoning. I think it's okay because I am picking one. I'm just going to keep picking them. Not overconsumption, we're going to keep creating, but I don't ever want to just be one version of myself. I think there's so many versions of myself out there that I want to try all of them and do my best that I can, and then just keep living, because if I keep jumping, I can only get farther. Yeah. Hopefully I don't burn myself out, but we're gonna try. There's also this concept called Ikigai. I hope I'm saying that right. I really hope I am. Ikigai. I'll put the chart up on the screen right here. But I actually came across this a few years ago when I first moved to New York 3 years ago. It was my first time in the 9-to-5 workforce. My job was not satisfying my creative passions at all. I wasn't feeling creative in any way. I was literally writing emails all day, and then I was bored, which I know it can be a blessing sometimes to have a 9-to-5 job where you feel bored, but that felt really tough for me just coming out of college and moving to New York, where I thought, I'm in the big city, you know, like I'm gonna do all these great things. And then I just didn't know what to do with myself, honestly. And it was a new city, so I didn't have a ton of friends yet. And I was really trying to figure out, you know, like what should my hobby be? Like, I did not have a hobby that I wanted to do or that I knew how to do. So I found this chart. It's a concept, a Japanese concept that means your reason for being. Now, it can be like your whole purpose in life, but I was using this to find my hobby, first of all, because it makes sense when you get into it. So it's all these circle diagrams, and it's what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and then there's also what you can be paid for. Since it was a hobby and I was already making money from my job, I kind of just disregarded the what you can be paid for circle, and I looked at the top ones. So I thought about, what do I love? And that also goes into, if you love it and you're good at it, that can be your passion. If you love it and it can be what the world needs, that can be your mission. But it needs to be all three of them. Otherwise, it won't work. If you can do what you love and you're good at it, and that can be something you're passionate about, you'll feel maybe fulfilled, but you'll feel a little useless, because it might be something that people don't need at all, that you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I making figurines in my room for no one to ever see? I'm good at it. I love doing it, but why? When I was thinking about my own life, I knew that I wanted to help people learn, mostly because I am just a very curious person, and I was kind of searching for that in my own life too, like something that could just nurture my willingness to always learn. And then I knew that I loved walking, which maybe sounds like not something you could love, but seriously, guys, I love walking. When I was in a new city, and I was always walking around trying to figure out where I was in the city, trying to orient myself, trying to feel like a little bit more of a local, just not the ditzy transplant and everything. I knew that I was good at walking. I could walk for long periods of time, and good at doing it by myself too, which maybe is not a strength to some people, but sometimes it can be hard to do things by yourself. So I was walking around all by myself, doing research, and I was really interested in digging into the historic facts of all these neighborhoods and different buildings I was coming across. And then I also knew that I really liked digital video editing. So then I just started putting it all together, and I made my first neighborhood video, Sugar Hill in Manhattan in New York, posted it on TikTok, and not even kidding, the next day it blew up. I will pull up the stats, but like multiple tens of thousands of views. A lot of hate comments, I'm not gonna lie, but it was just like immediately affirming that this is something I'm good at. This is something I love to do. This is something that people like too. And then like from then on, I had my hobby. I just walked around New York and I researched different buildings, and I made all these TikTok videos, and for a while it really brought me joy to do that, and so I did. But yeah, I just think that's a good example of when you are able to combine all those elements, you'll see it. You will recognize it right away, and that will be your Ikigai. And maybe I could have made money from it if I kept going, and it could have been a true full circle thing. I didn't actually make any money. I got some like free dinners, I got some free events I got to go to, but actually being paid to be a travel influencer would be crazy, and that would be so amazing. It just was not something that I was able to do. But I do think it goes to say that if you can align with your passion and your mission and what you love and what you're good at, then the money will come. The money will eventually come if you keep doing it. So back to our original question and the title of my video, why quit? Why does it seem like successful people are the ones who all quit and then they made it big? Maybe you don't have to quit. Maybe you just have to make yourself uncomfortable. Maybe if you have an idea that you believe in, you need to give it as much time as possible and give it as much as your energy as possible, and not just let it be something that sits in the back of your mind while you're doing a face mask, watching The White Lotus, you know? Even though I did love the new White Lotus season and I thought it was very intellectually stimulating. I don't know, there's always external factors, there's always going to be, but even though I saw a bunch of articles that were like, hard work doesn't guarantee success, and if you quit, you're gonna have all these other problems and you're not gonna have any kind of financial security, which, off the bat, I think financial security is totally a fake concept, but we won't talk about that. That'll be another video. But either way, all these articles and everyone agrees that hard work is consistently a vital ingredient to success. So if that's all you can control, you still have to do it. Hard work is the key component, and that's what it's going to take. So focus your energy on what interests you. And it actually feels good to do it, and it will energize you more. And it is funny because those exhausting days always end up being the ones that energize me the most. And then I'm like, why don't I do this every day? I could be so productive, Okay, this episode is coming to a close, but I do want to add one more story because I have just I've just met so many cool people recently on my travels. I've been traveling for over a month now, which is so crazy. I started out at a workaway, which I made the other video about so you can watch to see how I did it, but I didn't pay anything. I got to stay at this family's house and do work for them, and it was in the south of Spain, and I met some very, very interesting people there. There was one person that I think just everyone needs to learn this lesson from her because she's my hero. I can't say it any better. She literally was my hero. She is my hero, and I will think about her until the day I die. And her name is Jandy. She is an older woman who has grandkids, who lives by herself in this villa in Spain. She's a neighbor to the place where I was staying. We got coffee a few times together. I talked to her while I was out working, and she was smoking on the porch and drinking her cappuccino or whatever. And she's an older English woman who, as I found out, she goes from country to country every 3 months because if you know anything about visas, it's always like the 90 days they give you. That's also why I'm staying for 3 months. But she has been living life on her own, on the run, for her entire life. And every 3 months, she lives somewhere new. She does that, and then she goes back to England to see her kids and grandkids another 3 months, and then goes somewhere else. Like the 3 months before she was in Spain, she was in Mexico. She said she was just recently in Thailand. And this is a 70-year-old woman, okay? And she's going all these places by herself. And everywhere she goes, she gets a job volunteering at an animal shelter because she loves animals and she loves to help, and she once was a nurse, so she has the training from all that. And she just figures it out. She makes the money that she needs to pay for her rent, and then she goes where she wants to go. This is the part that I think really inspired me, is she told me that the reason she started doing this is because her parents died when she was really young. My age is when she was telling me, and it really hit me hard thinking about how it would feel to lose the people you've depended on your whole life, when I feel like I'm still a child myself, even though I'm not. I'm a 24-year-old woman. I'm not a little girl anymore, even though it still feels like I have no idea what I'm doing all the time. But there were so many things that her parents never got to do, that she knew that they regretted, that she knew they weren't living the lives that they wanted to. And so immediately she just had this flip that she was like, okay, I'm gonna live every single day like I could die tomorrow because my parents died early, I could die early. She wants to live every day of her life like it could be her last, and it's not that she's just getting pleasure out of every day. She is just living, and she is giving, and she's working at these animal shelters, and she is doing everything that she wanted to do, and she doesn't care that she's not being conventional. And I think that is so, so cool. And she said that sometimes her kids think she's crazy, sometimes her grandkids think she's crazy, but I just respect so much of what she does. And I think that that is the definition of a person who is leading with their heart and their mind, and they're not letting the world control them. And I think that's what we all need to do. Not that we can all be as adventurous as my girl Jandy, but we can all try. That is the episode. I hope it's not too long. This is kind of the longest content that I've made so far, but I'm hoping to have some fun essay topics for my next video. And I'm also going to start posting some travel videos because I have been to so many cool places, and I just really want to show you guys what it looks like here and hopefully inspire people to do the same. So that is vaguely related. I hope that you felt it was a little more than vaguely related. Bye!